everybody. Welcome to another episode of Box to Screen, where we take your favorite comic book movies and we talk about them from the comic book box to the big screen. With me today is my brother Josh, and we're going to be covering the 1990 film Tmnt the movie. So, Josh, when did you first experience the Tmnt movie? Because I was probably maybe 4, somewhere around there, but my love of Turtles grew from that and then the cartoon.
For me, it kind of goes along with my whole situation with like being a fan of the third film and series.
That's true.
Because when
you're gonna love when we cover the third one.
Oh my gosh, when we were kids, we had VHS tapes. So when I was a kid, I loved watching movies. Like I didn't really go outside too much. I usually just played my action movies. I watched movies and stuff. And, TMNT 3 was one of the VHS tapes I always had on hand. I'm just watch it. So it was always a personal favorite of mine. Yet, looking, in retrospect now, it's not that great of a film. Especially looking at the Turtles design.
It's great if you like it.
Yeah, it's one of those, guilty pleasures for me. I feel like it's one of those movies where if people got up and walked out of the theaters, I'd still be sitting there. But... and it introduced me to Tarzan Boy by Baltimore, but, it was enjoyable to me, I liked it, they went back in time to, what was it, 16-something Japan?
Feudal Japan,
yeah, and it was cool, they were fighting amongst, samurais and stuff, so, granted, we kind of watched a review on it, and then we kind of talked about it, and there's different things he probably would have done differently with it, which, granted though, Jim Henson by that point in time was no longer doing the suits because he died during the production of the second one, so they didn't use Jim Henson Productions after 2.
I'm going to rewind you a little bit because I know you got heavy nostalgia for the third movie.
Oh, yeah.
But
I know we're on the first film, but anyways, I always mainly watched the third film, but of course I did eventually get around to watching the original first 2, which was TMT the movie, and then Secret of the Ooze was the second film. And, the first film...
Not for kids.
Well, it's for kids, but not for kids. It's so much so that by the second one, they... really changed it a whole lot. If you watch the second one, they didn't use their weapons a whole lot because parents weren't happy, they're using weapons. And
one thing about the first movie, honestly, if it wasn't, and I covered this in my last episode, the 89 Batman movie, but honestly, without that movie, I don't think we would have gotten the semi-dark, gritty version of the Turtles, because, the comics really, in the early days, weren't made for kids, and they were dark and gritty, so... Between seeing that they can make a movie like that, and then the source material was already like that, I think it lent it themselves, and I think that's what I respect the first movie really a lot now that I've gotten older, but to me, you want to see an interpretation of the Turtles, watch the first movie, because it's not the cartoon, but there's cartoon elements to the first movie, but it really draws heavily from the, Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird original comics,
And not the cartoons. Well, granted though,
but
I feel like in the movie
same,
they did...
joking around, brotherly, aspects, but it wasn't, campy.
It was they tried to... It was the perfect blend.
It really was. I probably haven't seen another movie blend as well as that, but...
Which, also, the Turtles kind of suffered from the same effect the Batman films did in the 90s, because, obviously Batman and Batman Returns, the Burton Keaton films were dark and gritty, and, was really a dark, brooding Batman film. And then when Schumacher's did Forever and Batman and Robin, obviously it backtracked, lit up more neon, and more... sell toys. And just like Turtles, after the first movie came out, it was a great adaptation. You had the dark while also lightheartedness to it. And then by the second one, they didn't really use their weapons a whole lot. It didn't feel as dark as before.
I don't think it's ever going to be a movie version of the Turtles we're ever going to get back to, unless maybe I keep hearing Netflix is going to do something with them, or I've even heard rumors they're actually going to do a true sequel that carries on from the original movie at some point, maybe. But I don't know if we're ever going to get that dark, gritty turtle movie like we did in the first one.
Even the CGI 2007 film, like...
Another movie, not the greatest, but it was enjoyable.
I felt like it had art to it.
But honestly, I can't...
And then I would take the CGI 2007 film over the live-action Michael Bay produced films any day.
What is that? I've never even heard of that.
Oh, true.
So do you have a favorite moment in the TMNT movie? Because, unfortunately, I have a lot of favorite moments in that movie. Like, Ninja kick the damn rabbit. Like... One of my favorite moments.
Your first swear word on this show. But I don't know. Like, Mikey's always been my favorite character. So really, any scene with Mikey, but like, it's like
Raphael fighting Casey Jones in the park. One of my favorite scenes.
Like pork rind. And then like when they first bring April back to the sewers because she was attacked by the Foot Clan, and then Mikey's like, "Can we keep her?" And then like Splinter's like,
"It's the news lady."
Which like even that, like, their looks were down. Like, now granted, April only wore the yellow outfit once, but it was like
it was a raincoat.
It was a fan service moment. It was almost like, hey, we put her in the suit, and then.
But I enjoyed her as a character. I mean, she was the first live-action April, but there ain't nothing to compare her to. But I liked her.
Well, yeah, because it was the first one of its time, and then like you had the suits.
Oh,
they
the
looked
turtle
really
suits
good.
were amazing.
The movements in them were really well done, and
it's crazy how fluent everything was with those suits. Because even the motion of the mouths when they're talking and all that stuff, it just blended together so well. And then Casey Jones' look, he was down perfect. His mask was
and one
spot
thing
on.
that I'm glad they didn't continue from that cartoon and they based it more from the books is the seriousness of Casey, because like, if you haven't watched the cartoon, it's a far cry from the live action and the book.
Yes, but I think they heavily pulled from the comics. So
because in the cartoon he was like a brute and
idiot,
he was kind of like dumbed down, but again, it's a kid.
One of the high points I want to mention, because I think they tried to copy the Darth Vader entrance from the original Star Wars, but Shredder, I'm sorry, they pulled him off, man. He was pretty menacing in the movie. I wish they would have done more with him, but I mean, if you watch his intro and he's just walking in and that long ass shadow's following him, I mean, it's kind of, has a little creepy factor to it, man. Like, you don't want to cross this dude. And his name's Shredder, so, I mean, that's in itself.
Which they based off because when they were coming up with characters, they were grinding cheese.
Ain't that something?
And, like, what's also cool is, I know we just, like, a while ago were talking about Mortal Kombat, and Sub-Zero's my favorite character. In Mortal Kombat Deception, I don't know if you remember his design, but his helmet, mask had like these grooves of blades, and it looked like Shredder's like helmet, where he had like the grooves of the blades that it made him Shredder, not like the armbands that had the blades on it, but like just his helmet, like it made me think of Shredder, and I think that's cool. But like also like the look of him though, he seemed menacing though.
Yeah.
And even the portrayal of him, though.
Well, even the end fight scene, man, when he's fighting the 4 turtles on the roof. I mean, they did what they could at the time, and
he got defeated by a sidestep. Whoa!
But, I mean, if you watch the movie, throughout the movie, Raphael's the hothead that's, messing up a lot, and, they keep reminding him of that. Well, by the end of the movie, when they're fighting with Shredder, who's the first turtle that charges at Shredder? But the leader, Leonardo. So by the end of the movie, Raphael's kind of learned that he needs his brothers to, work as a team to defeat this person. But yet the leader of the group, Leonardo, he ended up letting his anger get over him, and he charged at Shredder. After I rewatched the movie not that long ago, I caught on to that, and that was a little detail. If you ain't paying attention to the movie, you probably wouldn't pick up on it.
Because Shredder brought up Splinter, and he got with him in their heads, and like he used that emotional connection, and it was like he knew that would throw them off because now they're gonna attack in anger and in rage rather than like, you know what, let's just figure out how we're going to do this. Which also, I feel like in the movie, didn't they just attack one by one?
They did.
Which was also their flaw too, because I feel like if they would have attacked them all at once.
If you remember, I think Shredder actually says that. I think he says, you know, if y'all would have actually worked as a team, you might have actually had a chance of defeating me. And I think that's when he brings up, like you said, the remark about Splinter, and Leo charges at him.
And even when Splinter has, like, when Shredder charges at Splinter on the rooftop, and then he moves, and then Shredder goes off, he's still being held on because Splinter is holding his spear with the nunchucks, and, like, really, if he lets go, Shredder's gonna go. And, like, Shredder, he's holding on. Splinter's basically showing him mercy. Like, he's like, I don't want to kill you. And then Shredder throws, like, a dagger from his, like, back pocket. When he throws it, it, like, throws Splinter off, and he lets go, and then Shredder falls down into a very non-PG film death.
About that, so...
He gets grinded up in a dump truck.
And Casey Jones just, you know...
A garbage truck, not a dump truck.
But Casey Jones just, you know, casually walks up and says, oops, and flips the switch, crushing a human being in the back of a garbage truck.
I feel like you saw blood on the wall of the garbage truck.
That was either blood or rust, but still, for a children's flick, I mean, at the time... I don't know, but...
Well, also, that film got away with a lot of, like, words like, damn, like, Ralph says it, like, what, 3 times? And then, like, you mentioned earlier when it's, like, Ninja kicked the damn rabbit. Like... it's kind of jokey, but also, I mean, that's probably another thing parents were saying something about, because in the next 2 films, they never say, like, I don't even think they even utter a swear word.
I don't think anybody does.
But Shredder, though, in the film felt like a very calculating character, because I like the moment where, what was his name, like Shinzu or something like that? Like, he goes up to Shredder and he's like, Master, the turtles have not been seen in several days. What is bothering you? And he's like, something about their fighting style that you described. It was familiar. Something from the past. Like, he was very cold and calculating. Now, of course,
he was either cold or calculating and very paranoid.
But no, he knew something was up, because I mean, like, obviously we saw he had the connection.
But do you realize that he just was not shocked at all that there was 4 turtles?
One of the most adorable scenes in that movie was when Splinter is in the rat cage and he's mimicking his Master Yoshi's movements, and like, he's the one that gave Shredder his scar, because he hopped up out of that cage and, like, right as Shredder cut his ear. No, he scarred Shredder, and what does Shredder do in return? He cut it off his ear.
Yeah.
Like, I felt
somehow he missed the whole rat.
And he cut off his ear and let him live. It's like a scar for a scar. And then he, like, I think it did take place in New York, because I think, Yoshi came over with his wife.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he made his way into the sewers, the TGRI, which, that was different. Because I think it was like TCRI in the comic books and in the cartoon.
Yeah.
But why didn't they change the one letter and the name?
I don't know.
It didn't make any sense to me why they would just change that one little thing. But he finds the cancer, the ooze, the turtles start growing, which, again, he started growing too. Which, like he says, it really grew him his intelligence. It grew them, like, their strength and size. Which another adorable scene is where, like, there were little turtles and like, radical.
Oh, they're learning to talk.
And he's like, 4 baby turtles. Like, he's telling the story to April, and then, like, Mikey's like, that's us. Like, that, like, and then, like, on the farm, when, like, I love how, like, they have that moment where they get defeated, and then they have to retreat, regroup, both physically and mentally, and then it's like, then they go back to take on Shredder, which, when they do that, they actually have, like, a well-thought-out plan, because they lead the...
Somehow Splinter comes back as a Force ghost.
Well, no.
You know why he did that? Because originally in the movie, Splinter was supposed to die. and that's why they were able to see his like spirit in the fire or whatever. But they changed it, and
Oh,
so
that would not have flew well, people, because that's as bad as when
and then
Optimus
Mikey,
was
if you
killed
notice,
in the
they each get a
Transformers
little
films.
each turtle when April's doing the narration or whatever at the farm. Each turtle gets a little narration segment, but Mikey don't. But there's two clips during the narration or montage that are actually part of Mikey's little segment. And the turtle that's on top of the barn that yells Splinter, that was actually Mikey, but yet they dubbed it with Raphael's voice. And then the turtle that's boxing in the barn, that was also Mikey because even though a lot of people think it's Ralph. But they were trying to show that even though he's the little brother and the innocent, yeah, he was actually really emotionally hurt that that his dad was gone.
Because in situations like that, like even like regular people, like they have to man up, be serious, and be like, this ain't a joke anymore.
Can I say that the turtle wax scene was very clever?
That I was thinking about that. I feel like
Clever.
that was
Very
his
clever.
introduction, because you know how like Donatello, obviously he's the smart one. Leo, he's the leader. Donnie, I mean no, not Ralph, he's the hothead. Then you get to the turtle wax scene. Mike, he's the comedian. He's the joker. Like he's the one like he's got the jokes. But even Donnie was the smart one, but
you didn't really see that in the movie.
No,
the only time you saw him doing something was fixing the truck, even though he does machines.
Yeah, he's a mechanic. But I mean, even that though was fun, like seeing him and Casey, and they're making jokes. But him and Mikey seemed like they were really buddy though.
Mm.
And Leo, I mean, I didn't really feel like they necessarily showed that much leadership in the movie though. Because I feel like Ralph was.
But you gotta think about it. In the start of this movie, when they rescue April, that was their first time coming out of the sewer.
Was it though?
From the way the movie makes it sound, like they had never actually. They had finished their training or whatever. They were, at the age where Splinter was going to let them do stuff.
So their first night out, Ralph loses his side.
Well, I mean,
I lost my side. I failed. I can get it back.
Oh yeah, he goes and sees critters.
That, I don't know. I feel like that was a funny little touch, but also not. And then, of course, it led to the park scene and stuff.
One of the cool things, too, is they gave them, Brooklyn accents.
Well, mostly Ralph. Ralph's the one with the heavy accent, though. Everyone, it's kind of like New Yorker / surfer. Because, you got, radical and cowabunga, that's the surfing terms. And, of course, they grew up in New York. So there's a lot of elements though, and I just love how the creators Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman just so many different things. They just kind of came in turtles, and let's make them mutants, and then they're ninjas, and just the domino effect of their creations and stuff. And it's they talk like surfers, and
they were supposed to be a parody of Frank Miller's work on Daredevil. I mean, the Foot Clan is literally a hash on their hand,
I noticed when I was a kid.
This isn't an official thing, but the stuff that hits Matt Murdock in the eyes that, blinds him or whatever, supposedly is the same stuff that hits the turtles and mutates them because, in the origin, the kid riding the bike, he's the one that makes the truck dodge him, and the chemicals fall and hits Matt when the turtles fall into the sewer. So
it'd be funny, the same chemicals that blinded Matt, they're still leaking into the sewers, and at the same time they created the turtles. But when I was a kid, I was like, the hand and the foot, I was like, it seems to, but I never really saw that. But even then, Frank Miller was influencing you wouldn't think the Ninja Turtles was a Frank Miller influence. But I mean,
aspects of it.
But I mean, a lot of his work, they said from Ronin to his Daredevil run to the Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller set the stage for making a lot of dark and grittiness to it. Which I mean,
and Casey Jones's origin, they created him just because they like watching TV, so they're like, well, let's come up with a vigilante that just gets irritated by seeing all the bad news on TV and he picks up his hockey clubs.
And he was an ex-hockey player in the movie, right?
In the movie.
You just said he was a vigilante.
No, in the movie he says he played hockey when he's at the farm with April. And he got hurt or something. So they don't ever in the movie really explain why he becomes a vigilante, but, you know.
It was also fun seeing him come back for Tmnt 3. Even though he wasn't in the second one, it was fun seeing his character back, but it was weird. He didn't really do much Casey Jones fighting. He was just kind of babysitting those
he
four
wasn't
samurais.
even really Casey Jones, man. Like, he didn't do nothing.
But it's one of those things.
But I like that. He's another character actor. I like him as an actor. He's been around forever.
And yet I haven't really seen much of him.
He pops up, man. He pops up in all kinds of just...
Like, recently, I was like, Chicago PD was coming. I was like, oh, he's on Chicago PD. And Mom's like, he's not on there no more. I'm like, oh. So then, I'm watching. I'm like, he's not even, on there. But, Elias... I know his first name is Elias, Elias Coteas or Coates. He's a good actor and stuff, but he's a character actor and just kind of pops up from here and there. But, and then even the actress who played April, the only thing I've seen her in was Armageddon.
Yeah.
Because she was Will Patton's character's ex-wife. And,
but see,
she was supposed to have been.
Now, out of the two Aprils from the original 3 movies, who was your favorite April? Because mine, honestly, I kind of like the one from the second movie, but I really enjoy April from the first film.
Well, that's the thing. You got the one April started off, but then you got the one that came back for 2 films. And the reason, actually, I think the reason why the actress Jules Hoag didn't come back for, I think I said her last name right, but she didn't come back for the second one was because of the changes made. Basically, the fact that they toned it down, she was like, well, that's, she didn't want to come back because
basically,
of that.
Why bother?
Yeah, and then Elias Coates came back for the third one, which was interesting because he still worked well with the new April. But again, she came back for 2 films compared to the first one, but it's looking back, it's hard for me to pick one because I don't know. I like them both, and I feel like they both did the job well because it's not like trying to compare the 2 Evies in the Mummy films where you have Rachel Weisz.
Well, the third Mummy movie doesn't exist to me. But I think we're gonna start wrapping.
That's the one threequel that I don't have with all my films, but I feel like it is a faithful adaptation and one of the best 90s adaptations because looking back, the 90s did have quite a few. You got The Crow, even The Shadow. I thought was a good movie. You had the 90s was a period of really kind of darker films and stuff. I feel like even the Frank Miller, he influenced a lot of work that came about in the 90s. And so I think it still just really holds up even today. And if I recommend a turtle movie, it's this one.
I enjoy it. It's one of my comfort films, I guess. Right up there, like I said in the last episode with the Batman '89 movie. If I want to watch a Batman movie, I go there. If I want to see my turtles, I pop this movie in.
And also the soundtrack is...
we almost forgot to mention the soundtrack.
Between
one of the best scores.
And just the songs in it because...
Very good.
Is it the Shredder Suite? I think that's what the track's called, the Shredder Suite.
What was the name of the song? The name, Tmnt Power.
Oh, Turtle Power.
Turtle
Power. And Crime with a K.
Dude, you want to rock out with some Turtle Power?
With the half show when the heroes for this day and age, you can ask for. And then, it's played at the end of the movie, and then during the end of the credits, it's called 9.95 for the Spunkadelics.
Yeah.
That's a really great song too. I remember just letting the movie play during the credits, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great song. Then, the MC Hammer song that we heard in the movie when they go to the foot play, it was
yeah,
this is how
this is what we do, yeah, or something
that was a good one. MC Hammer, that really made it helped make the movie fun. It was a kind of fun, it was they were feel good songs, and it was also a feel good movie. It was dark in tone,
but very very enjoyable.
And it still is enjoyable today, and I still recommend it to really anyone who gets into it. If you've read the books, it's good to go into the movie.
And I'm going to close this episode with some turtle wisdom. Never pay extra for late pizza. Talk to you later. Like and subscribe.